Thank you, Mary Rose. Good evening, everyone. This is the June 1st regular Milford Inlands Wetlands Agency meeting. I'd like to call to order. Please call the roll, Lisa.
Ranjit Bahav, Daniel Bedeker,
Here.
Jim Connors,
Here.
Matthew Connors,
Here.
Dave DeFlameri, Heather Donaldson Gladue, Steve Munson,
Here.
Jerry Panico,
Here.
Lisa Tryon, Brendan Magnan.
Here. Thank you, Lisa. Just as a general reminder, in accordance with Governor Lamont's orders and the Freedom of Information Act and PA 22.3, this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the City of Milford website. Please, we're being recognized. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And once recognized by the chair, please state your name. Please state your name. There's some thunder showers going on at the moment, so it sounds like we're going to have some extra participants. Give me 1 minute. Pardon the interruption. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Matthew Connors if you can serve as voting alternate.
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'd like to invite everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Mary Rose, if you could show the flag. And if you could join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of
United
America
States of America.
and to the
And
republic
Republic.
for which it stands,
And
one nation,
one nation.
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and
And
justice
justice for all.
for all.
Great, thank you, everyone. First up on the agenda, or next up on the agenda, public comments. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on topics not otherwise on the agenda? Going twice. Anyone here wishing to speak? And a third time. Anyone here wishing to speak on topics not otherwise on the agenda? Hearing none. Moving on to item D1. Mary Rose, can you introduce this one?
This is IWA 220021, 883 North Street. We received a request this afternoon to table this item until our meeting on June 15th. The applicant has given the agency an extension letter until June 15th. As you might remember, the 65 days was going to run out right after the last meeting, and they gave us an extension till today. So they've now given us an extension for another 2 weeks. At the last meeting, you made a motion to accept that extension, so I drafted a motion to do that for you this evening.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Mr. Connors, would you like to read the draft motion?
Sure, I will do that, sir. Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the 14-day time extension submitted by the applicant for review of IW-A-22-0021, 883 North Street to 6/15/22. All information required for review must be submitted by 6/8/22. That is my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
We've got a second from Mr. Munson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Lisa, please call the roll. Roll call vote.
Daniel Bedeker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Matthew Connors,
Thank you.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Jerry Panico,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
I'm in favor of the motion. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mary Rose, do you want to introduce item D2, please?
Yes. Item D2 is IWC 220010. It's 0 New Haven Avenue. This was a violation that we issued back in March for work in and adjacent to wetlands associated with Turtle Creek in the Indian River watershed without a permit. The agency required a map and wetlands report with recommendations for mitigation and stabilization. The property owner has submitted an A2 level survey for a portion of the property adjacent to New Haven Avenue with wetland flagging by William Kenny Associates. That information was in the document this evening, and I'll share it in a second. Mr. Kenny is also here this evening, as is attorney Kevin Kersaden. I spoke with Mr. Kenny this morning, and we agree that the site appears stable at this time. If you give me just a second, we'll share that map with you.
While you're doing that, Mr. Kenny, do you want to introduce yourself and add anything to the record?
Sure. Good evening. I'm Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield. I'm a professional wetland scientist and soil scientist, and was retained to go out and flag the wetlands at this property, which I did with Alex from my office as well, who's another soil scientist. And while there, we also reviewed conditions related to the clearing that had recently occurred. This site, if you were looking at the survey that you have on the screen before you right now, you could see that you have New Haven Avenue at the bottom of the page, which is to the south of the site. And then 15 to 25 feet into the site, you have an area of historic fill that was placed many, many years ago. It looks like it's been there quite a while. And then it drops down to a fairly level area that's around elevation 10. And then beyond that, it then drops another foot or two to a large marsh that extends north of this portion of the property. The property does extend off the survey, but it's almost entirely Phragmites marsh in that area. So both my work and the work of the surveyor, we just focused on this piece of the land. This is where the clearing occurred. And so this is where we focused our work. In addition to, and so we mapped the southern boundary of that offsite, not the offsite, but of the wetland that's in the northern portion of the property. You could see it there in green. And then in the southwest corner of the property, closer to New Haven Avenue, there is a sump at the outlet of a stormwater pipe that discharges onto the property from the west, and it's identified as an 18-inch reinforced concrete pipe. So that pipe, the water flow from that pipe appears to be quite significant at times because there's quite an eroded sump there, and it's created this little man-made wetland in that area. So we did mark out that area. And then that area that's relatively flat between the fill on the south and the wetland on the north, that area, interestingly, has collected a tremendous amount of road sand and trash over many, many years. It's quite extensive in that area. So the clearing occurred, I might be able to mark on here.
Mr. Kenny, can you just point out what you were describing where the sand buildup is, sedimentation?
Sure, that really comes out into here. And when I think historically there was a channel that ran along the western edge of the property, and over time sand deposits end up in this area, so it directs the water. The water changes direction from storm to storm. It might erode a little new channel, and there's just been so much sand that's deposited in there over time. Yeah, so the surveyor indicates approximate location of the swale, but that feature gets clogged from time to time with trash and debris and sand. And the clearing that occurred of vegetation, they left the root system in place of the plants and just cut the above the plant mass that's above the ground. And so the timing was perfect for this revegetated or regrew very quickly. So it has self-stabilized itself
Hmm.
in that area. I have photo, but Mary Rose, maybe you have photos as well if you'd like. I have photos.
I have photos from the original violation. I don't have recent photos. I apologize. Do you want to share?
Sure, I have some from when we were on site a couple of weeks ago.
Are those in your report?
No, I didn't submit those.
All right. You should be able to share.
Okay, one. Mary Rose, could you check that again? It's indicating that I cannot share.
Try now.
There we go. So let me start. Here's a view. The New Haven Avenue is to the left. I'm facing west. There's the neighboring property. There's a building there with a I forget the use there. Maybe a yoga studio.
That's a yoga studio and chiropractic office.
Okay, so you could, and I'm standing right at the base of the fill that's on the left here. That's been here for many years, and so to the right, this is where the area that's relatively flat at about elevation 10 with a lot of sand and trash that's accumulated over time. And the pipe discharges up in the left-hand corner here. This is a view where I turned and then faced east to, you can see the building on the adjacent property to the east, which I believe that's a vet clinic. And there's quite a bit of Phragmites, common reed grass, Phragmites australis growing here, and it's starting to grow up. And this is a view to the northeast. You can see the Phragmites marsh in the distance, where it's a true wetland. Looking to the east again. Now we're looking back towards New Haven Avenue. And the only material I saw that was recent fill were wood chips that were deposited as part of the clearing of the vegetation. That's looking to the north into the wetland area. And you can see our flag, this pink flag here. So everything beyond that flag was mapped as wetland. These are just pictures within that are, it's kind of hard to see these. So I'm looking back towards New Haven Avenue in this picture. This is, yeah, just this soil is probably a foot of sand with, and you can see some of the trash.
Mm-hmm.
But let me see. So that's pretty much it. The New Haven Avenue's in the back with the house. That house is south of New Haven Avenue on the opposite side of the street.
So, Rose, where do you believe we need to go next with this?
I think Mr. Kenny and I agree that it's stabilized. You know, the wood chips prevented anything from running in the storms in the spring. The roots weren't pulled, so all that vegetation is coming back up. It's a lot of invasive vegetation, but I think you can see the majority of the site is phragmites to start with. I think the site is stabilized at this time. I don't know that really adding any plants will do anything. I think they're going to be swallowed up by the invasives pretty quickly. Mr. Monaco has expressed a desire to do something with this property. We may be better served to have him do some kind of plantings at that time, because right now it's not going to do anything for the site, I believe. Mr. Kenny can.
Mr. Kenny, is there anything else you'd like to add, or Mr. Kusaden?
No, I agree, just to agree with what Mary Rose just stated. I agree with her conclusions regarding the property and how to deal with the violation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kevin Crusaden, for the record, 3 Lafayette Street for Anthony Monaco. I don't have anything further to add. We were awaiting Bill's recommendation, and then Mr. Monaco was going to act on that. So he's evaluating the site now. It's a challenging site to see if there's some type of development that could be done in the future, and he would have to come in with a different application. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Chairman.
Mr. Munson, go ahead.
Yeah, and just an observation. Would it be fair to say that the debris that's in there is pretty much probably wind blown? I mean, that kind of thing.
There's definitely some wind blown, but I think a fair amount is conveyed by the stormwater. Probably picked up off the road and through catch basins and then down through that pipe.
It's not uncommon to see discharges of sand off of a state route. This is State Route 162. When they revitalize their routes, the state will go back in and put hooded sumps and clean catch basins. But we have a number of points in town, usually off of I-95, where there is sand and debris from historical deposition off of state.
Yeah, you know, there's been no local dumping or anything like that in there. You know, we've seen that kind of thing in the past.
This doesn't look like our typical a landscaper or a developer or somebody came and dumped on the site. This looks like the particles and the floatables were transported in the drainage system, or potentially wind blown from being thrown on the side of the road.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Certainly, Mr. Munson. So this evening, the agency can ask further questions, modify the violation, release the violation, or refer the violation to the city attorney for non-compliance. Is there a prerogative? Is there a motion that the agency would like to make?
Mary Rose, do you have an opinion on this? Seeing it's regrown itself, should we release the violation and whatever he wants to do, he makes a new application, or?
I agree with that, Mr. Connors. It's stabilized. I don't think requiring any plantings or anything further at this time. We're just gonna, those plants aren't gonna survive. They're gonna be taken over by the invasives. When Mr. Monaco chooses to come back and do something, at that time, he can deal with the invasives and we can make sure it's stabilized with plantings.
Okay, I'll make a motion if you'd like. Mr. Chairman, I move that cease and desist order IWC-22-0010 New Haven Avenue may be released by the compliance officer on completion of the following items due to the fact that it has regrown itself and is fully stabilized. I believe that takes care of it. That is my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. Motion has been made. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second from Mr. Munson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
roll call, excuse me.
Lisa, roll call vote, sorry.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye,
Matthew Connors,
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Jerry Panico,
aye,
Lisa Tryon, Brendan Magnan.
And I'm in favor of the motion. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Kenny, for your expertise. Mr. Corsaden. Moving on to item D3. Mary Rose, do you want to introduce this one?
This is, sorry, let me stop this share. This is IWC 22-0011. It's 918 Willish Farms Road. This is the violation issued on March 30th for work in and adjacent to Turkey Hill Brook without a permit. At our meeting on April 6th, the agency upheld and modified the violation after speaking with Mr. Testo of Freedom Vines and Ron Wasmer of Connecticut Civil Group. Agency required a site plan and mitigation monitoring plan be submitted by the 31st of May, both of which were in the meeting links. Mitigation plan proposes removal of or relocation of fill in 3 areas with stabilization and replanting to protect wetlands and water courses. This is shown on a plan by Bill Kenny of William Kenny Associates. It's also my understanding that Mr. Testo is working on a manure handling plan for better disposal options in the future. This evening, we have Mr. Kenny and Mr. Wasmer. I'm not sure if Mr. Testo is on.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Before we have the experts present, is there anything further you'd like to add, Mary Rose? Any recommendations?
I would recommend, if it's your pleasure after hearing Mr. Kenny's presentation, that you modify the violation for the mitigation plans to be implemented. Bill and I talked earlier today. We think they can be done. They're fairly simple by the 30th of June, with reports as the things are the berms are put in and the plants are put in, and then again in the fall to make sure everything's doing well. If the agency deems it necessary, then we can also do a bond, require mitigation, a mitigation bond to be held until that work is done.
Okay, thanks for the preview on that, Mary Rose. Mr. Kenny, do you want to introduce yourself and present the proposed plan?
I don't know if you want, Ron, you want to orient where we are first, or Bill, or
Ron, would you like to start
Sure,
first?
I'll chime in for a second here. Ronald Wasmer, professional engineer, land surveyor with an office at 158 Research Drive, Milford, Connecticut. On the screen at the moment is the topographic survey with the wetlands that were flagged by Bill Kenny. There's Mary Rose and I walked the site shortly after the wetlands were flagged, and there was 3 areas that we discussed. The first was the area in the I would say southwest corner of the property near the gravel driveway. That was the area that prompted the violation. Then we proceeded to walk along the Turkey Brook. There's a animal pen. It's labeled as an existing barn. We noticed that there was some fill material moved in there. Some of it, I think, had been put there quite a while ago. Some of it looked to be a little bit more recent. That was the second area. And then the third area is over where it says Herbert Brook, is where there was horse manure was deposited on the slope of just beyond the wooden stockade fence. So we identified these 3 areas. I then walked the site with Bill Kenny, pointed out the 3 areas that your staff was concerned with, and provided Bill with the topographic and property survey. And then Bill has generated these mitigation plans. So At this point, I'll turn it over to Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Rossman.
Do you want to share, Bill, or do you want me to leave this up?
You know what, yeah, it might be easier if I share. Thank you.
Okay.
So on this drawing, what I've done is I have a map in the top right-hand corner that shows the entire property. And then I identify the 3 locations where there was activities adjacent to the on-site streams. And so there's what I identified those as Plan A, B, and C. Plan A is in the bottom right-hand or the southeast corner of the property adjacent to Wheelers Farm Road and just north of the brook. Plan B is further west along that same brook. And then Plan C is north of that and closer adjacent to the western boundary of the property where Herbert Brook is. So if we go over to the enlargements, and just gonna along just west of Wheelers Farm Road and north of Turkey Hill Brook is the area where some clearing had occurred along the banks of Turkey Hill Brook, and the gravel driveway had been improved there and expanded slightly. So what we are proposing there is to pull back the driveway slightly, build a biofiltration berm is what I want to call it. So a fairly permeable soil berm, a low mound that's about 18 inches tall. And that would just consist of a loamy sand. So it has the ability for water to slowly move through it. And when water moves through it, it'll be able to be cleaned before it makes its way to the brook. So any runoff from the gravel driveway would pitch towards that soil berm and back up behind it, and then just slowly percolate through that soil berm. And the property owner has planted some fruit trees in this area, very small fruit trees. And what we're proposing is that he take those and plant them within the berm itself. So the root system of those trees will hold that berm together and also help clean the water as it moves through. On the backside of the berm, between the berm and the brook, we're proposing a staggered row of native shrubs and they'll be on the banks of the stream. And these shrubs are known for having the root systems being pretty aggressive. So they're good for this use. To help stabilize the bank and provide a really good cover on the bank there, and also help with cleaning the water as it moves towards the brook. Now, if we move to Plan B, where the animal pen is, and that is in the northern portion of the plan. There's a fence that runs left to right through the central portion of the plan there. And so between the fence and the brook to the bottom or to the south is a vegetated buffer. The activities that recently occurred is there was basically some grading of the surface of the animal pen area, and some soil was pushed over the top of the fence, or dumped over the top of the fence. And it's not very big. It's an area, maybe a 10-foot diameter area. So we're calling for that area, which we show with a red line work here. We're showing that soil be removed from that area. The vegetation is so thick in that area, and the area is so small that's been disturbed, what I'm proposing for that is that they just take some wood chips and cover the ground in that area to stabilize it. And lastly, because of that animal pen there, I'm proposing another mound here, a continuous mound to help to as a sediment barrier. So any water that's running off of that animal pen area will have to make its way through that berm. And then beyond that, it'll make its way through the existing vegetation. So we're proposing a 2-foot tall wood chip berm that extends the full length of that area, just uphill of the existing paddock fence that is present there. And at the bottom left-hand corner of the drawing is what we're calling Plan C, and this is on the western portion of the property, just east of Herbert Brook. It's an area that's pretty steeply sloping, woodland area, forested, and again, there's a animal area, and that is on the east side of the plan. And here you have a fence that extends from the top of the plan to the bottom, and that runs north to south. So between that fence and the flagged wetland, which is shown in green, and the brook that runs through that wetland, which is shown in blue, between the wetland and the fence is a forested hillside. And they have been removing a portion of the fence and dumping manure in this area, as well as some soil. So we're proposing that material be removed, at least this the surface portions of that, and be carefully removed. We don't want to damage the trees that exist there, and so just carefully remove that. And then again, because of the tree cover that exists, to simply put down wood chip, a layer of wood chips over that area to stabilize it and allow for the roots of the trees to continue to give the primary stabilization that is occurring in that area. So the tree roots are stabilizing the deeper layers of the soil, but we'll put wood chips down just to stabilize the surface of the soil. And during the work, when the soil and manure is being removed, a silt fence will be installed at the base of the drawing, the base of the slope, just below the work area. So those are the 3 areas where unauthorized activities occurred, and the proposal that we've put together to fix those areas.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Question to you or to Mr. Wassmer: is there a designated, area that you're recommending for them to deposit the horse manure?
I'll chime in on that, Ronald Wasmer. When I was at the site last week, I believe he's taking the manure off-site. He had a large dumpster, like a 40-yard dumpster, 8 feet wide, 6 feet tall, 30, 40 feet long, and he's been loading it into that. I'm not sure where he takes it. I can ask Mr. Testo, but he told me that he's no longer depositing manure in that third area that we discussed, and that he's taking it off site. So
Yeah, I think we want to know as a general rule. I don't think, given he's been depositing it in that area, I'd be interested to make sure that we don't have any liability there.
So I'm not an expert on this, so I'm speaking more as a layperson, but I believe he takes a lot of this off-site, and that what was deposited there was incidental, we'll say. Maybe, the container was full. I can't speak for him, but, so they did obviously deposited some material there, but judging by the container that was there and the size of it, that he has to frequently have this material removed from the property. It would have been a mountain if he had done this on a daily basis.
Right. Okay. Additional questions for Mr. Kenny or Mr. Rothmer? Mr. Bedeker.
Hi, Commissioner Daniel Bedeker, Milford. I guess through you, Mr. Chairman, I guess this would be for Mr. Kenny. You're mentioning wood chips. Are these like the Home Depot type wood chips you get in the bags, or is this like more of the wood chips somebody takes down a tree and they grind up like the branches and all that, and it's just natural, untreated wood chips?
Yes, that the latter that you described. What I am proposing is something from an arborist, something that's been chipped up from cutting of trees, and so it's all natural and not dye or anything like that.
Okay. Well, and the purpose of this is to like absorb things, or?
Stop erosion.
Yes, to protect the surface of the soil from erosion, and also being just to try to mimic the conditions of a forest floor itself, where organic material falls, the leaves fall, branches fall, and and so working with something that's fits within that process and is organic and natural.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bedeker.
I had a question.
Yes, Mr. Connors.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mary Rose, just a quick question. In terms of what works better, the mound that Mr. Kenny was describing, as opposed to silt fencing, do we have an idea on what actually works kind of better than the other, or is it kind of the same?
The DEP manual will allow, a 2-foot mound or silt fence. There's different uses for each. Silt fence sometimes can be difficult to get in along tree roots, but it may also be hard to stack a 2-foot pile of wood chips along that slope. They might want to consider a core fiber log, a coconut fiber log that's staked. It should be dug in a little bit, but I don't know that it has to be dug in as deeply as a silt fence, and it might injure the tree roots just a little bit less. You're talking mainly on that slope on the, I've lost direction now, I think eastern side, western
On the west side?
West side.
And I was
But the mounds and berms proposed along the driveway and by the pig enclosure, those will work very well, as you said, arborist chips to filter out anything coming across the landscape.
Yeah, the reason I ask, and one more question, around that deposit of manure, how maybe I missed it. How large is that deposit in diameter?
There were. Go ahead, Ron.
It's probably 30 feet long. It extends down the slope, maybe 15 feet beyond the fence. It's kind of steep over there because it was deposited on a steep embankment. So
in terms of environmental impact, wouldn't we be more concerned with that manure deposit rather than the gravel? And the reason I bring up the silt fencing as opposed to the mound as opposed to silt fencing, do you think that the mound would be better in that location just to guarantee that none of that manure gets into that brook? Because I feel like that's the biggest concern.
The intent in this area by Herbert Brook is to remove the manure from that area, and then that area become just a naturalized area in the long term. And whereas on Plan A, the intent is in the long term that there's a driveway here. So that driveway is going to remain in a couple of parking spaces. So the idea there was to put in that soil berm that is a permanent feature for water treatment. But on the other, by Herbert Brook, the idea is just naturalize that whole area and eliminate the potential pollutant source there, which is the manure. So pull the manure out and stabilize that area and let it just naturalize back to a woodland, or it is a woodland, but just the ground surface, let the ground surface naturalize.
I just want to add one thing to that, just to alleviate perhaps some of the concern or the fear. Again, as a layman, not an expert, I would say it's 10% manure and 90% hay. So we're not looking at an environmental catastrophe here, like a sewage treatment plant dumping into the river. And it's decomposing as we speak, just turning into kind of a mulch, I guess. But I agree with the recommendation to have it removed. But I just wanted to clarify, what it's consisted of.
Thank you, Mr. Wasserman. That helps. Appreciate it. And as to Mr. Connor's question, Mr. Kenny, I guess the question he's asking is, do you feel like this recommended silk fence is just as effective and the most effective solution?
So, and the silt fence is just, it's in the intent of the silt fence is not to treat the manure in the long term. It's to protect that site during this construction to restore this area.
Thank you. Any other questions? If there's no other questions, I would suggest that we consider Mayor Rose's recommendation. I support it. I do think there needs to be a bond associated with the proposed recommendation, given that there's investment required here. Anyone willing to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the cease and desist order violation IWC-22-0011 918 Willis Farms Road be modified to require the property owner to submit mitigation monitoring bond to be calculated for plantings and monitoring reports by 6/15/22. Complete the mitigation planting and stabilization as described in the William Kenny Associates report dated 5/31/22. And I don't know if there's something you want to put in. We have the line between that date and 6/30/22. Follow the watering plan for the mitigation plans to be provided by William Kenny Associates to ensure survival of plantings. Monitoring reports to be done by the professional wetland scientists at time of planting by 10/15/22 and within 2 weeks of any required remediation. Monitoring reports are to be submitted within 2 weeks of work and within 2 weeks of any required mitigation work. Is there anything that Mary Rose you want to add to this?
Jim, after the proposal was to see when you wanted this work done by, if it could be completed by 6/30/2022, we can go with that date.
Okay, yes, we use that date.
Okay, Mr. Connors, does that complete your motion?
That was my motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second on the motion?
I will second the motion.
Mr. Munson, thank you. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? Mary Rose, is there a specific bond amount, or does that need to be calculated by your office?
Typically it's calculated, Mr. Kenny would calculate it or his office would calculate it. Basically, we're looking for evaluation of the stabilization measure and his monitoring reports.
So Mary Rose, you could calculate that right and add it to this.
Yes, I can. Mr. Kenny, could you stop your share?
Sure.
So Mary Rose, do you want us to include what that bond amount should be in this draft motion, or?
I don't have that bond amount. I did not have time to calculate that this afternoon. So
Okay.
He can ask that he submit a bond that's to be calculated, which is typically how we do it in approvals.
Understood. Okay, wasn't quite sure there. And I believe that was part of your initial motion, correct, Mr. Connors?
Yes,
Okay, great.
I
Thanks.
believe so too, so.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lisa, can you have a roll call vote, please?
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye,
Matthew Connors.
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Jerry Panico,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon.
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
And I'm in favor of the motion. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Thank you, Mr. Wasmer.
Thank you.
Can I just have a clarification on who the second on that motion was, please?
Mr. Munson.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Next up on the agenda is item D4. That's IWA 220041 1553 Boston Post Road. This is for Splash Car Wash. They have requested that no action be taken this evening and are reviewing the proposal with city staff. They anticipate providing the requested information and reviewing at the next meeting. So I recommend that the agency take no action on this matter.
okay.
Right. Moving on to item D5.
Item D5 is IWC 2022-0003, 615 Plains Road. This item and the following item, item E1, IWPA 220047, discuss the same site. We had issued a violation in January to Andrew and Jason Julian for work on the property without benefit of permit. There's an intermittent water course on the adjacent property, but immediately adjacent to where their work was done. The agency required some stabilization work as described by Mr. Kenny and Mr. Wasmer. And that work did happen. There was some seeding in the past couple of weeks. I was out there today. It's getting there. It's not stable as of yet, but it's working its way there. Give me just a second. I can share that with you. Here we go. So this is the site this afternoon. This was in your links. This area previously, it was dead of winter. There really wasn't any stabilization or anything going on these slopes. We do have a seed mixture down. It's a little dry, but this evening's rain will help. The Julians may want to make sure that they're irrigating this to get some growth there. So you can see it's a stabilized parking area with a slope going off. The intermittent water course veers off at this point over in this direction. This is a wood chip storage place on the adjacent property. And this is looking back towards the site. Core fiber logs are still in, stabilizing this minor slope to the parking area. Parking area is paved, drainage is in, and the drainage structures are located on the other side of the parking lot. So the site is stable at this time.
Great. Thank you, Mary Rose, for the visit and the photos. Mary Rose, do you have a recommendation on this one? Do you feel like we can take any action?
There's two ways to go. They're basically waiting for grass to grow to stabilize their site. And they can, water it and wait another 2 weeks and we can bring it to the agency in 2 weeks. Or you can let me release it once the site is stabilized. It is on them to make sure this is irrigated. They have irrigated and the other areas of the lawn that are closer to the building have been stabilized. We're just waiting for these back slopes to come in. And this has I think it's a mixed wildlife seed mixture. So it may take a little bit longer to take. There are some natives and of course invasives coming in along this area.
They grow best of all.
I'm sorry,
I just, the invasives grow very well.
they do. I don't recall, and as Mr. Kenny is here, he may be able to answer if this, I believe we asked that this be a low-mow area. I don't know if Mr. Wassmer, Mr. Kenny has a recollection of that as well.
My recollection was that you asked for the, Bill recommended a wildlife seed mixture. They purchased that from New England Wetland, and I believe they just put it down towards the end of last week. And so I think your comment about minimal mowing, it was correct. And judging by the slope, I don't think they'll be too excited about going cutting grass there every day anyway. So if that makes any sense to you.
So the agency can either leave it for 2 weeks and we can see how the seeds have grown, or you can let me release it upon inspection of a stabilized yard area. If it doesn't get stabilized, I can bring it back.
I think that's the way to go. Let you make the decision.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mr. Julian, is there anything else you wanted to add? I see you've raised your hand.
No, Mr. Chairman and Mary Rose and the board members, good evening. This is Jason Julian. I'm one of the members of 615 Plains Road LLC. I just wanted to let you know that one of our affiliate companies, definitely we go there on a very regular basis, and we're just making sure that all the sedimentation, any of the erosion control, the wild flower mixture, any of those areas are being irrigated, seeded, maintained. The grass is being cut and taking care of any of the areas that needed to be stabilized on the rest of the site. So definitely our crew goes there on a regular basis, checks on everything. We do have water at the building, and we will make sure that per Mary Rose's recommendation and the boards that, everything will be irrigated and maintained on a regular basis.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Julian. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Connors, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that cease and desist order IWC-2022-003, 615 Plains Road may be released by the compliance officer upon completion of the following items, being the seed mixture growing in and stabilizing the bank.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. Is that your motion?
That is my motion, sir.
And do we have a second on the motion?
Seconded.
Mr. Connors, Mr. Matthew Connors has seconded. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor. Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Matthew Connors,
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Jerry Panico,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon. Brendan Magnan.
Aye, I'm in favor of the motion. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Julian, Mr. Kenny, and Mr. Wassmer. Good luck with.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your assistance with this matter. We appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we going to discuss the next item, or is this both incorporated into?
No, the next item is the pre-application.
Okay.
So Mary Rose, are we talking about E1?
Right, so now we're talking about item E1. It's PA 22-0047, 615 Plains Road. Same site, same photos. It's a pre-application for a permit for the proposed school bus storage facility. It's an after-the-fact application. As you can see, the site has been constructed and is almost fully stabilized. The applicant is scheduled to go before the Planning and Zoning Board next Tuesday and needs a report out of inland wetlands for that meeting. Ron Wassmer and Mr. Julian are again here this evening. I was there this afternoon. The site plans for that site, if you had reviewed this when it, pre-construction, basically shows a bus depot. The slope we've looked at in the photos is here along the right-hand side of the area. That driveway in the photo is here on the right-hand side. This is a vault with gasoline storage to fuel the buses. And as the general slope goes this direction, your stormwater is here, I believe, on the next plan run. Or the one
There's a drainage and grading plan.
there we go. Okay. So our general, there are catch basins by this driveway here, and your general flow of water is across that parking area, as you saw in the picture, down to where, and then Ron can describe his stormwater treatment system to comply with MS4 and keep clean water going into the city's stormwater system over here.
Great,
Sure,
thank
I'll interject at this moment. So this was designed per the City of Milford engineering requirements for the first inch of rainfall and or the increase in runoff for a 25-year storm. The soils are.
Ron, only just for the record, please state your name and address, just since this is a new matter that we're.
I apologize. Ronald Wiseman, professional engineer, land surveyor with an office at 158 Research Drive, Milford, Connecticut.
Thank you.
So we submitted the plans actually quite a while ago. I think it was about 18 months ago. The city engineer reviewed them. He had his typical comments, but he made a statement that he believed the stormwater management plan was adequate. I'm paraphrasing there. Everything has been installed at this point. There was a lot of scheduling issues. The bus company was under a tight deadline to leave. They had a lease that expired over at the, they parked the buses at the Post Mall. The Post Mall was proposing to build some buildings there. That did not go forward, so that they didn't evict the bus company. But at the same time, we were trying to get this work done while we were waiting on planning and zoning. Planning and zoning wanted a traffic study, which took a while to get that accomplished. Nevertheless, the Julians accomplished the vast majority of the work, as you can see from the pictures. And we have a planning and zoning meeting coming up next Tuesday. We were delayed with planning and zoning partially because of the violation that was issued back in March. No, I'm sorry. It was back in like December. So I don't know, not to get too carried away, but you see the proposed plans, you see what's been built. There's been review by all the different departments, including the city engineer. And I don't think I have too much more to add, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Wassmer. Does the agency have any further questions, or are we prepared?
I'm sorry, I did want to add one thing. It probably hasn't come up, but the fuel is a completely self-contained fueling system. It's managed by some third-party company. There's no underground fuel tanks in this. They come and they service that storage building, and then it's operated by the the bus company, and just to clarify in case that comes up as a question.
Thank you, Mr. Wasmer. Any further questions for Mr. Wasmer or Mr. Julian?
Okay.
Further questions, Mr. Connors, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I have a question, Mary Rose. Do you want to use a jurisdictional ruling on this? Give them the letter.
Right, this is before the agency, for the agency to issue a jurisdiction, to empower me to issue a jurisdictional ruling based on the plans that are before you.
Okay.
The other option this evening, as it's a pre-app, is to make it go to a full application.
Okay, I'm going to make the motion for the jurisdictional ruling. Mr. Chairman, I move that the designated agent issue a jurisdictional ruling for a pre-application IW-PA-22-0047, 615 Plains Road for the parking lot construction, grading, drainage, and landscaping as shown on the plans entitled Site Plan 615 Plains Road, Milford, Connecticut, by Connecticut Civil Group, cover and 12 sheets dated 1/3 and 5/10, dated 12/01-20, sheet 4 dated 5/24-21, sheets A1 and FP-1 dated 5/24-21, sheet TP-1 dated 5/03-22, revised sheets 1/2/7/10 and TP-1 5/3/22, sheets 3/8 A-1, FP-1, 5/24/21. This action will not have an impact or effect on the physical characteristics of the adjacent wetlands and watercourses. That is my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Connors, for the motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Second for Mr. Connors. Any further discussion on the motion?
That wasn't Mr. Connors.
Thank you, Mr. Munson. Thank you for keeping me honest.
Right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lisa, roll call vote, please.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Matthew Connors,
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Jerry Panico,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon.
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye, I'm in favor of the motion. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Julian, Mr. Wasmer, thank you for your time this evening. Good luck on the next
Thank you.
project.
Thank you again.
Certainly. Moving on to item F, consideration of the minutes that were distributed from the May 18th meeting. Do we have a motion to accept those as
I'll
distributed?
make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Mr. Munson. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Matthew Connors,
I believe I have to abstain. We're approving them last minute.
yep,
Mm,
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Jerry Panico,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon. Brendan Magnan.
Aye. Motion carries with one abstain. Thank you. Mary Rose, do we have a staff report?
No real changes in the staff report. If in the notes that were sent out to you this evening or this afternoon, there is a link if you'd like to join the May 11th seminar on wetlands and climate change. It's rivers and water courses, the importance of riparian zones. It's a lunch hour webinar from 12 to 1 next Wednesday.
You said May 11th. Did you mean June 8th?
I meant June 8th because I merged that together with the May 11th seminar. There's a link in the notes to listen to that video if you'd like an hour of wetlands at your lunchtime.
Thank you.
You know, re-go over that the training programs are available, the Lua training, deep training, no real changes on sites. People are undergoing construction. We're waiting for mitigation reports that come in the spring. office has been busy with a variety of inquiries and calls and potential sites and lots pools.
Great, thanks very much for keeping the activities under review. Next up, any further question or any questions for Mary Rose? Hearing none, moving on to the chair's report. Our next meeting will be June 15th. Please let the office know if you will be unable to attend. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Could we have a second motion
Second,
and a roll call vote, please?
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Matthew Connors.
Aye.
Steve Munson,
aye.
Jerry Panico,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon. Brendan Magnan.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. The meeting has adjourned. Have a good-
Aye.
Thank you,
Good night,
everyone.
all.
See you in 2
Thank you.
days.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, Blessing. We're all done.
My pleasure. Enjoy your night.